Hi everyone, welcome to this dashboard study. Um, so you need to log in with this URL to get access to this login page. And here, after you log in, um, you should have received the email with the confirmations about starting this survey. In the email, we told you that the email in the whitelist and also um, the login URL. So I think you have already received the email because you already have the access to this video, right? Now, please enter the email we give you. We confirm that we will already confirm that your email is in the whitelist. In that case, you can also enter your email as well. Now just click send me a code. You will only receive a code if your email is in the whitelist. Now let's just wait for a few seconds. All right, now I have received my email. So now I'll just type in the code I received in email. And then click sign in. Now it will navigate me to the survey page, to the Home Assistant page. So here we have few pages, as you can see. I will explain those one by one and what to notice. So the first page you will be looking at is an introduction page. So few important information you need to know. So the first thing is talking about what this study about, right? So you are basically helping us to do a dashboard design studies for smart farming. And in this study, you guys will provide some dashboard design to me and to help us understand what kind of dashboard will an expert create when they are facing alarms or abnormal situations in a IoT smart farming setup. Here's a link of this video. I believe you don't need to really taking care about this part because you are watching it right now. And here is the data recording notice. So please be aware, we will collect those informations when you are in the in this study. For example, the actions you take when you click anything's in the dashboard in all of this page, or when you save edits the widgets, the components in the page, we will record those. And also we will process your intermediate step when you are building a dashboard or when you are creating any widgets or cards. And the final dashboards you build, we will be for each scenario, right? In this scenario page, you will be creating few different dashboards, and we will be collecting those informations or the dashboards you created. So here's some summaries about what these pages are. So introductions, you are already here. It's just an overview and help you to get started. And the exercise is the practice exercise to give you some hand-on exercise on starting creating some dashboards on Home Assistant system. And also the chamber sensors info. This is the hardware setup layout of the simulated farm. This is more like a reference information page. we want you to understand. And we'll talk about this page later. You can see there are setups, also the sensor's name, sensor ID. And then the crucial part, right? The key part is the scenario 1 to 15. This is a part you are trying to finish and create some dashboard. So in total, you will be creating 15 dashboards for 15 scenarios. And here are some of the terminologies that are commonly used in Home Assistant. For example, a card basically means a visualization widget. It can be a graph, a gauge, or a line chart. And also, entity in Home Assistant usually means a sensor or device entity. So for example, sensor.say1 underscore temp is a unique ID of a entity. Basically, this represents a sensor, and this object is keep uploading sensor data. And then you can plug in this entity to a card, and then you will have a visualization. I will talk about this in detail in the exercise section. And okay, here a dashboard basically means everything happens here, right? So in the dashboard, you have the tab and you have the view or a page. Page is a more common term used in English, but in Home Assistant, it's called view. All right. The last thing is the edit mode. So if you see the pen at the top right corner, if you click it, you will enter edit mode. You can basically edit anything on the dashboard. So you can see this text box is also a editable content. You can edit the text here, right? So I will leave you to explore this one, but this is not important in the introduction page. We will perform some exercise in the exercise page. And here are just some context. So we have a simulated farm, IoT farming setup built based on real world smart farming, vertical smart farming IoT setup. And here, in this setup, we have 3 simulated chambers. So the first chamber grows leafy greens with the irrigation system. Second and third, one of them is growing fruit crops. Another of them is performing some stress test experiment. I will talk about this in detail in the chamber sensors info page. Okay, here, this basically means all the scenarios, right, from 1 to 15, focus on data from yesterday. So when you are trying to investigate the data happens, you are interested in that all the data happens yesterday. So this is when the alarm was raised, right? It was raised yesterday. So your job is to investigate that, or it could be and then create some dashboard, right? And then here's what you need to do, right? For each of the 15 scenarios, you need to read the alarm description, add 3 or more visualizations, right, to investigate the alarm. Use any card, right, you think might be helpful, and save your dashboard. Then move to next scenarios. Right. Sorry, but there is one thing I missed before we jump to exercise. Here, notice that we assign you some roles in the email, right? So make sure you perform when you create your dashboard. make sure you follow your rules, right? So think about it as if you actually working in that roles, right? In one of these roles in a smart farming setup. However, that doesn't mean we don't accept any personal preferences, right? Your personal preferences matters, and there is no correct dashboard, right? So just imagine you are working as one of these roles, and then add some personal preferences if you want. Thank you. And then now let's jump to exercise. By clicking the exercise tab at the top, you will be landing to this page. Here you will learn how to add widgets before starting the real before start doing the real scenario. This is just get you started on how to edit widgets on Home Assistant. Okay, so let's follow this instructions step by step. When you do this experiment or this exercise, you will encounter some issues. Like when you click, first thing you need to do is to click the pen at the top right side. So I'll show you again. Here is a pen. And if you click this, you will enter the edit mode. Then step one is done, right? Step one is done. And then you can see something that you can interact with. But focus on the practice area. This is the area you will be doing this exercise. So you will click this plus button. It's a add card button, right? So it's step two. You will click this button, right? After you click it, here is a problem. So the Windows, as you can see, is blocking the informations behind it, right? So what we need to do is we make a new tab so that we have the same page, and then we can just move it here, right? So we keep it at the left side hand side of the screen, and then we keep doing the exercise at the right hand side of the screen, right? So now we have two browsers basically displaying the information. All right. Well, let's see what are we doing now. So now we're up to step three. So this step just tells you, okay, Home Assistant offers different types of visualizations that you can choose or card you can choose. Here are some common type, right? And you can use all of these, right, in this study. I'll just demonstrate you some basic one. For example, the gauge. Let's create a gauge, right? All right, let's see what's next. Now is step 4. After choosing a card type, you are seeing the entity drop down. So here's the drop down, and you can start selecting the entities as known as sensors, right? So these are all the sensors or entities you can get, you can observe from our system, from our simulated farm. For example, C1 temp, right? So start typing the sensor name. You can start typing that like this, and then you will get this, right? The first one is our choice. Is what we are interested in. The chamber one temperature. All right. So at the right hand side, you will see a preview, right? That's the visualization we will see. And, okay, we've done step 4. Now let's have a look at the step 5. Depending on the card type, you can customize. So here's something you can customize, right? Here, you can make the name more human-friendly. For example, change the chamber 1 temperature, right? change it to chamber 1 temperature. And then you can set the range, right? By default, it's 0 to 100. But in a real smart farming scenario, maybe the maximum range will be 40 degrees. Now you can see the value will be displayed in a more appropriate range. And you have some extra setup as a bonus, or you will set up this in the exercise, practice exercise. And then step 6, just click save. Congrats, you have created your first chamber gauge or your first visualization. Next thing is a practice exercise I want you to give a try. I'll lead you to finish the first one. Add a gauge card for sensor C1 temperature. So here we already done that, right? If you want to edit the widget you have already added, you need to re-enter the edit mode, and then you will see a pen icon. Click it, you can edit it again, right? Let's see what the task wants us to do. Set min 10, right? Okay, let's set a min 10 and max 35. Cool, now we have a good range display on the gauge. And then what else, right? This is optional. So add color threshold by turning on display as needle gauge. Now we have a needle gauge. And then define the severity. Okay, so let's see what this do. So you can see that you can change the colors in the gauge, which is really helpful if we have a threshold in the temperature and we want to display it properly. For example, this number just tells you after what degrees all the color will be green. So let's say after 1 degrees, right? Or after 2, 3, 4, or 10, right? Now everything is green because there is no other colors. Let's modify the yellow or red, right? Let's say 5, okay, 4, and then 3, right? Okay, I think there's just, yep. So you need to make the value bigger, yeah, to make it, yeah, because our minimum is 10, sorry. So we need some number bigger than 10 so that you can see the range, right? For example, 11, right? 12, right? 13, 14, right? You can see that the grain, because it's between 3 and 15, and it's after 14 degrees. So that, I believe at this point is 14 degrees. All right, you can try to play around with this to make sure it shows you a correct threshold, right? This is just an optional bonus. You can try it out to make the dashboard make more sense. And then you can add a history graph as well. History graph is something, it's like a line chart. So here is the entity dropdown, but we notice that we have multiple entity dropdown. So we can show something different. Like we can show chamber 2 temperature and chamber 1 at the same chart, at the same graph. And then we can give it the title, right? C1, C2 temp. It's just an example. Here you have a comparison, right? Line chart with detailed time and the x-axis and degrees at the y-axis. Right. Next, I will be talking about the chamber sensor info. All right. So let's have a look at the chamber sensor info. So as you can see here, the first thing you will look at is the threshold. So let me zoom this in, right? So this is just a reference guide for how our smart farming simulated smart farming looks like. So this threshold just tells you what considered is alarm. For example, right, temperature, the ideal temperature range is 20 to 24 degrees. It will raise alarm. So the sensor will raise alarm when it is below 18 degrees or above 26 degrees. You can check other values range as well. And here's are some power sensors. These will also raise alarm if it is outside the normal range. So here's the normal range, right? And then it is failed at 0 watt, right? This is just an example. Okay, so here is the time period for investigations, as we talked about in the introduction section, if you remember. So all the scenarios, all the 15 scenarios show will be interested in the data happens yesterday, right? So when you try to investigate the alarm, check the sensor history graph and select yesterday, right? For reasoning, right? For investigating. I will show you example later when we are doing scenario 1. So here is all the sensors in chamber 1. If the graph is too small, you can zoom in your browser. So here is our chamber setup. This is chamber 1. You can see growing some greens. Chamber 2 is growing some fruit, chilies. Chamber 3 is a stress test chamber with some experiments. They all have the similar sensors, but the only sensor you can read are those one labeled in the square. So, for example, here is our multifunction sensor. You can read temperature, C1 temperature, right? And then upload to home assistant as entity. That's where you can search it, right? And then it can also read C1 humidity, the humidity range values, and then upload to home assistant. And here, this is the leafy greens and herbs, right? This is a chamber 1. And then here's the sensors. Basically, it's from the graph. It's same as all the sensors in the graph. I just make it as a list. So everything will be the same. So all the sensors in chamber 1 start with C1, right? Chamber 2 start with C2, right? Chamber 3 start at C3. And then in chamber 1, we are interested in the chamber 1's irrigation sensors. So these sensors are uploading their values to home assistant as well. We are not interested in those sensors values in chamber 2 and chamber 3, only the irrigation system in chamber 1. Okay, so that's the context of the chamber setup. Now, I'll walk through a scenarios with you guys, right? To show you how are we doing the experiment or how you guys will complete this these 15 scenario. Just give you an example. So Remember, you can withdraw without any penalty if you feel unwell or you don't want to continue to do this experiment or survey. Let's read scenario 1, right? So at the top, you will see the alarm information, right? So this is the sensor raised the alarm, C110, right? If you go back to chamber page, you will see this is the sensor, right? That's raising the alarm. So instead of just clicking here and clicking back, right, again, I recommend you to, again, right, open another tab and put it in different screen, right? In this case, I already done so. So I will just completing the scenario at the right-hand side. And if I want, I can read the threshold and then the chamber setup graph to enhance my understanding, right? So let's continue the task, right? So we have given you the conditions, right? This temperature, right, is below 18 degrees. So this is too cold. If you check the threshold, right, that's why it raised the alarm. So it's below 18 degrees. So we want to create a dashboard to investigate the issue, right? So your task, right? Add 3 plus visualizations. Feel free to add more, but at least 3, right? And then you save it, process to the before moving to the next scenarios, right? That's it. That's all you need to do for each scenario. I'll just give you an example. So if there is a temperature issue, right, in the chamber, what do we want to see? We want to see what's the what was wrong, right, with the temperature. So let's say I want to see C110, right? That's something I'm interested in. Well, make the minimum 10, maximum 35, right? Okay, you can make the gauge or other visualizations you want, right? I'll just give you an example. Okay, let's see the values, right? So what the so I here, right? If you remember, um, time period for investigation, right? So we need to investigate the data, right, in yesterday's range. We don't need to care about the data happens now. We're just interested in the data happens in yesterday, right? Because this alarm was this alarm was raised, right, yesterday. So how do we check out the values happens yesterday? You click the show more, right, and then select yesterday here. These are the data happens yesterday that we are interested in, right? So you can see that something dropped start dropping around 2 a.m., right? And then it's going back. It goes back to normal value. So someone probably fix it at the morning at 8. But we want to investigate the cause, right? That raised the alarm. So we need those visualizations, right? So I probably need a gauge, right? Just in case something wrong with happens with temperature again. And then I also want to see, right? Because there's probably something wrong with the AC, right? So I probably want to see what happened with the AC. So that's why I can select a gauge, another gauge, and okay, it is already selected for me, and I'll just save it by default, right? You guys can change more if you like. So now I have two different gauge that I can check the values, what happens, right, in the history. Again, right, click show more, right, and then select yesterday. Ooh, I can see something really strange here, right? You can see around 2 a.m. the AC power is going up, which is really high. It's working at the maximum functionality, at the maximum power, right? So um, that's how I reason about this. So you can add another visualizations, right, to convince that it's not the fault of the temperature sensor. For example, I would also add something else, like the fan, right? Maybe it's a fan um, causing the issue, right? So I'll add another gauge with C1 fan, right? Maybe the fan was not working really well, or the light was too bright, working too hard, so that a or the fan or the light didn't work really well, so that it decreased the temperature. Right. So let's have a look at the light, right, and edit. So we can check out the light values in the history. Okay, so let's seems like the light values working at the normal range, right? So we have like 3 lights, as you can see in the graph. So this is a cumulated watts, right? It's around 220 watts. That's fine. That's a normal range. So that's not so the um, so this is not causing any problem. So we want you to build a dashboard, right? That can you think it's best to react to this alarm, right? So next time when the alarms happen, right? Um, you can see immediately what's wrong with the temperature, right? So the AC and light might tell you right what happens. You can also add more um, visualization if you want. For example, the fans, right? As I said before, is that causing the problem of temperature? Right? You can add those as well. Okay, that's everything I want to show you. Good luck with more scenarios. So there are 15 scenarios in total. Make sure you have completed all of those. And yeah, hope you have some fun. Thank you for participating.